What's your most scary or disturbing school experience? I have two. One, guy who bullied me in high school called me over and opened up his blazer to reveal a knife. We were 11 at the time. He didn't come in the next day, as he was caught in the bathroom threatening someone racially. Two, there was a girl that was quite abnormal. She screamed and ran around and copied teachers' haircuts, and was basically a pest. Our form room was also a tech room, and she was sat at our table, and had hold of a tool intended for sharpening wood. She then proceeded to slice open her neck. She was rushed to hospital. I asked her the next week why, and she said because it was funny. We all had to put up with a bully, Kaiso. He only caught up with me once, but I saw his work from a distance too often. Learned early to keep out his way. Typical bully, never forget the huge grin he liked to stick in everyone's face. He was one of those freak kids in secondary school, bigger than a lot of the teachers. He had a thing for a guy I only knew as Barry. Barry shouldn't have been in our school IMO. He was special needs. A happy soul without an ounce of harm in him. Barry was bigger than Kaiso, but, well, you know how this goes. He made a point of torturing him, because it looked better for him picking on somebody bigger than him rather than us plebs. Barry put up with this for about 6 months, then snapped. There was an open corridor between two buildings where he caught Barry, basically a roof with two sides of wire-reinforced glass. Barry decked the cunt out, then proceeded to boot him through a pane of glass. Kaiso tries to crawl away on the other side. Barry, having none of this, runs through the door and continues the job on the other side. First time I'd ever seen the fencing response. Putting the end first, he lived. This kid, who also lived on the street that led to the school, jumped off his building in a suicide attempt one morning. Many students passed by the scene on the way to school, and the school uniform told him away as one of us. It was also a small school, everybody knew everybody. His brother left the house shortly after but didn't recognize him on the floor. When he was told who that was, well, it's safe to say he freaked out. Although he jumped from the 8th floor, he landed on some electric cables which broke the fall. He went to the hospital, stayed there for a long time and left as good as new and much happier with his life, ready to turn it around and fully support it. My high school was in the ghetto of my town, and was tagged on every corner by a different gang. It was also an open campus, meaning anyone could walk or drive through. That area has a big homeless population, and many of them would chase students to their cars and ask for money. Some tried to break into cars, some even tried to steal lunches from students. The priest at the church on my campus decided one day to do a food and clothing drive for homeless, without alerting the school. Where was this drive to be held? In the library in the high school building. We walked out of class to see dozens and dozens of people in the hallway, going through our backpacks and lockers, fighting over jackets, using some of the student stuff. The students and teachers were absolutely freaking out. My principal called the cops and they took everyone out and tried to get back anything they stole. The priest tried to tell cops that it was a food drive, but school staff had no idea about it. We had a rule: whatever the church does, the school is told about; whatever the school does, the church is told. This rule was set to avoid situations like that from happening, but that priest broke that rule because he knew the school would never agree to that. We had a surprise active shooter drill where they fired blanks in the halls and the students full on thought we were gonna die. We had a near rapist teacher who bragged about wanted to screw with drunk women in his Uber. My high school sucked. First of all, pretty much the first contribution to Reddit itself, I'm new. English isn't my first language. So, I live in Canada's province of Quebec and therefore, speaks French, so everything happened in French. About 11 years ago, I, a 25 female, was with my now fiancé, 25 male, in the same high school. I had some exams that day and that particular morning I was taking an exam, don't remember the subject, and it was in my English classroom, as we often don't take the exam in the subject's classroom. For example, no French exam in our French classroom. Fiancé and I never were in the same classes. During the exam, I kept feeling as if someone was watching me intently, but it made me feel uncomfortable. I just focused on my exam, and got out of the classroom as soon as I was done and could do so. After that, we had lunchtime and then, as we were done eating, went upstairs to just walk around the square, as people called it, just the hallways forming a square. I felt the same feeling of being watched. We were alone. I told him as such and he could feel it too. It really wasn't fun at all. All day it was that. Not that much of a contribution, but anyway, here it was. Dude was on some hardcore drugs and at lunch whipped out a pocket knife and was holding it to everyone, including me. I just stayed calm and said, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing? Back up from me, bro." And I was staying calm, but my friend had to push him, and he fell over and dropped the knife, and that's when the teacher that was on lunch duty noticed, and she started screaming at my friend. That was until she saw the guy with the knife grabbing the knife from the floor after he dropped it. I actually thought I was gonna die that day, and I would rather die alone in the woods than in a school. Anyway, he got expelled, which was good. Come to think of it, a lot of crazy shit happened when I was 17. Damn. When I was in 6th grade, there was this kid who was creepily obsessed with me. Don't ask me why. I'm not ugly, but I'm not the prettiest and definitely not the most graceful. He was also obsessed with mayonnaise, and he called me mayonnaise once, but anyway, this kid said he could predict the future, and he said he could watch people, and was a kidnapper, which I didn't believe. He always said he was watching me, but I didn't think it was true. The week before we came out of school because of COVID-19, he said we won't be in school next week, and keep in mind, none of us had any idea that school was gonna be cancelled. And when it was, I was thinking, wait, he got this right, is he watching me? I could not sleep for 2 weeks. When I was 12, the power at school used to go out a lot. We would find ourselves in total darkness, and the toilets would stop working since they were automatic. This time around, the wind knocked down a power line, and this was a Friday afternoon, so we were without power for the day and rest of that weekend, and they wouldn't let us go home. So these dumbass kids would run up and down the halls making noises, scary the heck out of the rest of us, and some even took shits on the floors of the bathrooms, which were pitch black in a power outage. So unsuspecting people would walk in and step on it, like the second time that semester we had a recurring poop problem. It was the scariest thing because kids in classrooms would make up rumors that there were ghosts or shooters or something in the school, and they cut the power to kill us all. It didn't help that the wind outside was horrible, and we had to walk down the street to the high school and use the bathroom there. I also later learned that my little brother was pushed by the wind and fell into someone's car. He was about 7 at the time. I have no idea if the perpetrators were ever caught either. There was a time during my 6th grade year, I believe, and there were threats to shoot up our middle and high school. Keep in mind that these schools were attached anyways. The school decided to play it smart and not close down our school. But at least there was mass patrol across the school, and 2 cops guarding every entrance. It wasn't scary, but the nerve was lingering for sure, and it didn't help that we saw police pacing through the hallway every now and then, which kept the idea fresh in my mind. The day ends, and that night on the news I saw that the police caught the person making the threats by tracking their IP address, and was charged for threatening murder. The name of the type of charge isn't coming to mind at the moment. And the case was closed with a fine. Probably not as serious as any of the other stories on here, but that's about as close I can get to scary. TLDR, allegations of a school shooting towards my school, person gets tracked down and fined. My friend and I were fondled and almost kidnapped at school. We were in 2nd grade. Someone who I assumed was a special ed teacher, who called themselves Mrs. Worlds. She called he and I out of class. I remember her pointing towards a van in the parking lot and talking about how we were going to get in it. As you can imagine, this started setting off alarm bells for me. Even at such a young age. She must have noticed something I didn't, as she turned around without warning, fondled my friend and I through our clothes and ran off. We were just standing there stunned. Not really sure what to do. Do we go back to class? Do we go find an adult? Why did she do that and run? After what was probably a few minutes, another adult found us and just ushered us back to the same class. They asked what happened and we said Mrs. Worlds took us out. She said, there is no Mrs. Worlds. When I was in 6th grade, they found a dead body in a ravine a few blocks from the school. That same year someone robbed a bank close to the school and was fleeing the scene with a deadly weapon, so we had to go into lockdown past school hours. When I was a freshman in college early in the year, my roommate and I, living on campus in the dorms, Heard a ton of police and emergency sirens at like 3 a.m. Thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. Woke up the next morning to a million texts from friends and family. There had been a shooting literally a block off campus property at a frat house party. One guy shot 3 students, 19 to 23 years old, close range. Thankfully only one died. Motive or details were never released. It sounded drug-related on the grapevine. My junior year of college, a student was found dead under a pine tree in a wooded area around campus. The school insisted it was an animal attack. Bears are not totally unheard of in the area, but not bears actively attacking and killing students. Never heard about it again. The university and PD kept it tightly under wraps. I had a close friend that actually worked at the complex the student who died lived at, and she never heard a word more about it. Very tight-lipped, which makes me think it wasn't an animal attack. Freshman year of HS, and some details are kinda iffy cause I didn't fully learn what happened until after. Some kid in the cafeteria brings in a bullet, though no gun, and is caught. Nothing too big since I live in the US, and have had shooter drills since grade 7. Anyways, my lunchtime was 11:52 until 12:28, or something like that. Point being, I had first lunch. And am excited to get to Spanish class, as I'm good at it and enjoy Spanish. As you cools guess, 1 minute past the time to go. No biggie. Then 2. Then 5. Then 10. Then, we were let out to our next class. I funnel in quickly to my Spanish class and greet THR teacher with an excited, "Hola." A few moments later, they announce a lockdown. Suddenly, my class feels silent. No one knows what's going on. Apparently, some kid, after the bullet was discovered, told their parents that an active shooter was on campus. No gun was present, but a bullet had been there. We were told by intercom the next day. Tighter, bullet found turned into rumors of a school shooting, got put on lockdown. Source. Before reading it, if you are in HS and back in person, stay safe. Not just from COVID-19, but know the proper procedures to counteract a shooting. While I'm lucky that no one had a gun, not every case is. And if you are thinking about hurting anyone, yourself included, tell someone, a trusted adult. Take care, all of you. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this one.